I'm Sharon Barnes-Waters, and welcome to CityViews, the show about people, places, and things that make New York great. My guest today is a speaker, an educator, and a journalist, and she's adding author to her title. She's written this children's book called EmojiTells. It's a digital show and tell, a social media guide for kids. I want to welcome Mikka Onita to CityViews. Welcome, Mikka.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You have always had a passion for kids before we even get to the book. You're an educator. What was it about social media that you as an educator said, I got to do something?
Okay, so that's easy. I was at the time going in schools and doing workshops in schools. At the time I was doing it on behalf of a college. And as I was going into the schools, I found out over and over again, no matter what borough I was in, all the principals were having the same problem. All the counselors were complaining about the same thing. Social media is disrupting my day, social media, because it was relatively new, somewhat new at the time. And so I had gone home and had a conversation with a family member. And I was like, this is ridiculous. They're having all these problems with social media. I was like, someone needs to do something about this. And then, you know, one of my relatives says, why don't you do something about it? And I was like, oh.
Yeah, why not me, right?
Yeah, why don't I do something about it? And so that's how it all started.
What do you think is the biggest challenge for young people? What are they not getting?
They don't get that there are repercussions. They think for the moment. They don't think long term. They think short term.
Instant gratification, now, hit it.
Exactly. And I think that the biggest obstacle is making them understand that what you do today could either help you or harm you tomorrow when you post it online.
Because when they think, okay, I'm young, I have all this time, nobody's going to see it. But your thing is think before you send and you post.
Exactly. But you know, they're very strategic because many of the times they're posting because they want a large audience. So some of them are very savvy about the time of day to post.
Wow.
You know, almost like if I post this picture or this comment this time of day, I may get more likes or more views. So they're all about the attention, but I always tell them not all attention is good attention.
It's good, right.
You know what I mean?
Are most of them taking heed to that, or are they not?
Some of them are taking heed, some of them aren't. Some of them are. You know, some of them have had some situations that have come up, and then we've had to have conversations about it. But then I believe that the more examples and the more education that you give kids, then the more likely they are then to take it seriously.
Because while you're teaching young people, you're also trying to educate the parents. Because I look at this and I'm like, you know, this should be a book for the parents' guide.
Yes, I'm trying to educate the parents. I'm also trying to educate the educators. Because there's some, you know, educators who still are somewhat unaware of the impact that it's having. So I just like to say it's important to have a 360 approach to it when it comes to students. Talk to the students, talk to the parents, talk to the educators.
What would the parents be most shocked to find out that their kids are doing? What's out there now that parents be like, what?
I really believe that most parents don't think their kids are sexting. They don't think that their kids are posting any type of questionable photos. But I think they'd be shocked that they were to really take the time to sit down and go through the phones and start to go through some of the secret accounts that some kids have.
How can they create a secret account?
You just false name. You know, they put up false names. They have aliases. Because when I do the workshops with students, many of the time, like, well, miss, that doesn't apply to me because I don't even use my real name. And then we have to go through. I'm like, yeah, but aren't you still you? Isn't that still a picture of you? And I was like, you know, there's facial recognition right now. If I look at you and your name is Sharon, whether you post yourself as Sarah or whether you post yourself as Kim, you're still Sharon.
Right.
And all of that can still come back to haunt you. And when I put it to them that way, then they're a little bit more open to listening.
And you have something called, there's two things. What is your Club Millennial?
Okay, so Club Millennial. Okay, so Club Millennial was the company that I started to be able to be a consultant to go in and start to give the workshops. I do workshops throughout the school system, and then I also have the opportunity to work at Bronx Community College with the Science Technology Entry Program.
And you have the hashtag for justice. Your kids, you're proud of your kids. Okay,
let's talk about hashtags for justice. So most of us remember all of the controversy that happened couple of years back with Eric Garner and Michael Brown. So every year there's a competition where the STEP program goes to New York State STEP competition, and hundreds of schools from around the state and students compete And you have to do like the scientific method, and we come up with a project. Well, the project that my students decided to tackle that year was to talk about the role that social media played with community activism, with bringing the communities together when all of the controversy was happening.
Okay.
And they nailed it.
Wow.
And I say they nailed it because we spoke to a person who, alleged victim of police violence. We spoke to Amadou Diallo's mother.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So we covered a lot of different grounds, the whole approach. We covered it, and the kids did an amazing job. We won first place, so yeah. So we're always trying to top that now. We're always trying to top that.
Wow. Now coming back to your book, EmojiTells, what age are you targeting in this book?
This is elementary school, because I've had the opportunity to do workshops with high school and middle school students, but I have a niece, and I was thinking, well, if I was to explain this to my niece who's in elementary, how would I explain this to her in a way that she can understand? And some people may think, well, they're in elementary school. Why would we need to talk about social media?
Right.
No.
How soon should
they know everything.
What's the age? You start approaching your kids at?
I would say 8, 9 years old. And what really brought the light on for me was I was in my apartment, and these little girls were downstairs, and they were singing a pop song, and the parents were recording them on their cell phone. And then the mom says, oh, you know what, I may just put this on Facebook. And the little girls started jumping up and, Mommy, please, Mommy, please. And I was like, you all understand? And it made me realize, you know what, they get it. Like, they really get it. And all of these little girls were like 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade. They were different age ranges, but they were definitely little ones. And that's when I was like, okay, so we really have to start to talk to them earlier and not wait.
So this is for parents or for educators. Who should get this book?
I would say that this is for parents, educators, and kids. And the reason that I designed it the way that I did is I set it up.
Miss Mika is like, you know, it's like a school, Miss Mika, and it's
well, yeah, because that's my kids call me Miss Mika. And how I set it up was I made it to look like social media on paper.
Okay.
So the messages are in boxes, like bubbles, the way that you would get on the phone, and that there's footers at the bottom of the book that are talking points that an adult can have with.
Yeah, let's look at that. So I'm gonna go to like the first page 5. Like this, I mean, I love this. It says it starts off. There is a new form of show and tell. It gives you a chance to leave a trail. Cell phones and computers are used to post. You can share the things you like the most. Hashtag cannot delete. And then you have an explanation at the bottom.
Yeah, so at the bottom, then this is a perfect time for you to explain, okay, this is what social media is. This is an opportunity for you to talk to your kids and say it's much like show and tell. Because it is, if you really think about it. And the crazy thing is how I came up with the book is I was literally stuck in traffic on the Major Deegan. You know, that never happened. And I was stuck, we couldn't move. And as I was thinking about how I would explain it to my niece, I thought, well, show and tell. Who doesn't understand show and tell? All kids understand show and tell. And then it started to come in my head, and I literally had a pad sitting next to me, and I was sitting in traffic, literally writing the concept out on paper.
Wow.
And then I worked on it from there.
And I know that you've used this book also. Last month was Anti-Bullying Month, and I like what you said. It's on page 19 of this book. It says, "Don't bully, don't tease or fuss and fight. Be kind and thankful. Show yourself in the best light. Hashtag no bullying." So I'm thinking at that age, kids need to be taught about bullying. I mean, it's this a serious problem of kids depressed and some taking their lives. And you included in this book, and I know you had a big push last month.
Yes, to make sure, to go out and have the conversations with the kids. And you know the crazy thing that they're telling me though? Right. And I mean, it's like, ooh, they said, well, we just do what we see adults do. Oh,
see that?
And, you know, as an adult, I apologized.
Wow.
I said, well, you know, let me apologize on behalf of adults who are setting a poor example. I said, but I know that you now know the difference between right and wrong, so I just want you to hold yourself to a higher standard. I said, some adults are not necessarily going to do the right thing, but you have the opportunity to do the right thing. They're listening and they're watching what we're doing.
They're mimicking what we're doing.
Exactly.
So that's why I was like, maybe we should write a book for adults, you know, because they are mimicking, they're mirroring what they're seeing us do. And if they see parents and adults in their lives thinking that these things are okay, they think it's okay.
Exactly. So we can't say one thing to the kids, but then we live a different reality for ourselves.
Have you met kids that have been bullied?
I've talked to some kids. I had one little girl at the end. I did a workshop in the middle school, and at the end they were like, "Miss, can I talk to you? Miss, can I talk to you?" So I said, well, line up. And they came up one by one. And at the end, there was a little girl who lagged behind. And she waited till everyone was gone. And then she said to me, Miss, I have to talk to you. I have a problem. I'm like, well, what's the problem? And she started to explain to me that there were these pictures that her and her friend shared, but then her friend had went and photoshopped the pictures. And now her sister had found the pictures on some site, some mail site. Now, these are middle school kids. And she goes, I don't know what to do. And I went to my parents, and what do I need to do? And she was literally crying her eyes out to me. And so, you know, I then went to the guidance counselor, and she had already alerted her parents. But I mean, this is kind of a situation like, what do you tell a child whose parents have been notified, but they're still somewhat being tortured by something that their friends are doing?
So you can use this book as a teaching tool and then also tell them of real life instances and maybe even extract from them, are you going through this?
Exactly, and they share a lot. And I like to use real world instances because I think that that's something that they are more likely to identify with. I don't want to make up something that it could happen. Whenever I do workshops and I speak to them, I talk to them about things that have happened.
Wow.
And I use documentation, like this was on CBS News on this date.
Wow.
This really did happen. They're like, you know, so they'll know that it's just not something that I'm making up, that it's a reality.
And you teach them about stranger danger?
Yes, they need to know
and not only do
this.
you, because I laugh, but I shouldn't laugh, but teaching them about stranger danger, and the teenagers are also doing the same thing through, because you can hide behind social media. You don't know who you're contacting, who may think you're this, you're cute. So there's stranger danger for them.
Exactly.
And then for kids, it's like, don't be fooled by somebody on the other end of a computer.
Because it may not necessarily be who you think it is.
And usually not.
And it usually isn't.
Catfishing, we're hearing now
exactly. Just because there's a photo of an 8-year-old there or a 9-year-old doesn't necessarily mean that's an 8 or 9-year-old. It could have been a picture that was picked up off of Google Images.
Right, right.
You know, so they need to be really aware.
So what do you teach them about stranger danger? How do you tell them?
So what I tell them to do is, at this age, if you don't know them, and I always tell them, if you don't know them as in you've had one-on-one contact with them, like they're not a classmate in school, they're not a family member, don't accept any requests of people that you are unfamiliar with, that you don't know, even if the child looks like they're your age.
Wow.
I just want them to make sure that it needs to be real-world friends.
Right.
And you can still interact with those real-world friends online, but at that young age, I don't think that if they're getting friend requests from anybody that they don't know, that it's not a good age to do it.
Wow, wow. So that's a lesson. So you kind of have two things that you're doing. You're teaching the kids with EmojiTells, and then you're educating our teenagers, because, you know, and starting at a young age, I think, is really good, because then they will start to see and have good social media habits. Can I say that?
Yes, social media habits.
They will have good social media habits, because what they sometimes don't realize is that schools are looking, jobs are looking. As you get older, things can become really, really bad.
Exactly. And that's why I always, especially when I speak in the high schools, I always use real world, and I always use students that are their age. So when I'm giving examples, because, you know, so many things hit the media, I will give stories and talk a little bit about students that they can identify with, students who look like them, because then they're more likely to identify with them. And then some of them, their eyes get big. Mister, that really happened? I'm like, no, that really did happen. And so then that makes them more aware of how important their behavior.
And as we're living in this multicultural world, and, you know, kids are really great. What do you teach them about diversity and people looking different from them?
Exactly.
And speaking different from them. We're in
well,
this
I
world,
tell them
and
they
we
need
teach
to
them now
embrace
about this.
diversity. You know, because the great thing about social media is it does bring so many people from so many
around the world.
Yeah,
you're connected.
Backgrounds together. Exactly. So just because someone is different from you doesn't necessarily mean that you're any worse or better than them. They're just different. So I just tell them, you know, especially being in New York City, you have to embrace diversity. And also, you know, if there's something that's different, don't be critical online. It may be a cultural thing. Just because your family doesn't do it, doesn't necessarily mean another family from a different culture doesn't do it. You know, and I said, sometimes it's just better to shut up. Sometimes it's just better. If you don't know what you're talking about, don't say anything. You're better off.
So your thing is, think before you post.
Think before is so important.
It's easy. That's an easy thing to say. Think before.
And I've had students who've told me, look, I've made mistakes, miss. Okay, but I've already done this. What should I do? I'm like, well, okay, but it's never too late. You know that you've made that mistake. Let's go in, go clean up your account.
Right.
Go in and make the changes. Yes, that may be out there, but it's never too late to correct a mistake.
Right.
So I never want to leave them feeling poorly about something that they've already done. I want it to be a moment, a teachable moment,
right.
and that you can do better. You can always do better.
Wow.
You know, and just hoping, though, that whatever happened in the past will not come back to haunt you, but better to clean it up now and move in a positive direction moving forward
right.
than to continue the poor behavior.
Well, Mikka, where can we get this book?
This book,
is really good.
Yes, great. This book is now on Amazon. That's where it is available. So if anybody wants to educate their kids, please take the time.
That's why you said teachers, parents, because it is a show and tell. It's so easy to read, and then you have instructions on the bottom.
And I picked the emojis because who doesn't love emojis?
Yeah.
You know, so when I was thinking about the artwork, I wanted to make sure it was something that everyone could identify with.
Right.
And everyone, I'm in love with emojis, right? So I was just like, I want to do emojis. Then it even got so bad that when we started to first illustrate the book, we had a girl emoji and a boy emoji. Then I had arguments about the girl's emoji's hair was too long. And I was like, okay, forget it. We just want an emoji
right.
a unisex emoji.
Yeah.
Because this has become a little ridiculous. Yeah, so that's why I thought EmojiTells. So emojis do tell, right? Because every single time we have an emotion, we always pick it up with an emoji.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, why not use the emojis as a teaching tool?
Well, thank you, Mikka Onita,
for
stopping by. So this, I think, is so important, starting our kids off at an early age to be responsible social media
training.
Yes,
that's the key.
I think I like it. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much for having me.